Hi there and welcome to another chemistry lesson. We're looking at acids and bases, and in this video I'm going to look at the strength of acids. Okay, so we get strong acids, strong versus weak acids. Okay, we're specifically looking at strong and weak acids, not necessarily the bases, but before we get into it, let's just quickly see what we need to understand in order to progress. If I look at an acid we defined as a proton donor, or Renee has defined it as when I dilute an acid, okay, it will increase the concentration of the hydrogen ions. Okay, so, and this is a reversible reaction. So if it increases the concentration of hydrogen ions, obviously an acid needs to have hydrogen in it. Okay, so it is usually a covalent bond. Hydrogen is covalently bonded to another ion, and this would be a negative anion. Okay, an anion, that's why I use the letter A. And so when we dilute it into water, it dissociates. This is called dissociation. It associates into the ions, into hydrogen plus the anion. Now, a strong acid is an acid that, so let me define it here for you. Okay, strong acids dissociates completely. Okay, what do I mean by that? Well, if I say a strong acid dissociates completely, I'm referring to this reversible reaction being to the far right. Okay, in other words, if I were to dilute it in water, I would have almost exclusively hydrogen ions and anions. I would not have any of the acid itself in the the acid molecule itself. They would dissociate almost completely into ions, so they would be a very low concentration of actual acid and a high concentration in the solution. Again, this is now comparing the concentration in a solution of water, a high concentration of hydrogen. Now, a weak acid would just be the opposite. A weak acids dissociates partially. Okay, in other words, in a weak acid, the equilibrium is in the middle or to the left. Okay, the concentration of hydrogen compared to the concentration of the acid itself is either less or roughly the same. Okay, so in other words, the equilibrium is more to the left side. Now obviously we get stronger acids and weaker acids, and it will all now depend on exactly this. So what we do is we look at the K value for acids. Okay, so the K value for acids is when we actually take the concentration of the products, okay, the concentration of H plus times so this is the product, the concentration of the anions divided by the concentration of the acid in the solution. So notice here that if I have a greater, if this value that I get is greater than 1,000, okay, that means that the ratio of, for every 1,000 ions, there is only one hydrogen, one acid molecule for every 1,000 hydrogen ions, and that's what this would mean. Then it would be a strong acid. Okay, it would be a strong acid. And if it is smaller than 1/10, okay, so that is 0,1, then it's considered a weak acid. Okay, so in other words, that means for every 10 molecules of the acid, there's only one hydrogen ion. That would be a weak acid, and the reason why is because you can see the amount of acid is higher than the amount of hydrogen ions. So now in between, obviously there's now 1,000 values here, and these are in between values. They are either close to being as strong, or one is stronger than the other. Okay, but as soon as it's higher than 1,000, then we know it's really a strong acid, and then weaker acids in between, and then weak acids would have a very low dissociation constant, and this is called the acid dissociation constant. Acid dissociation constant. Okay, constant, equilibrium constant. Okay, so this is just a introduction to strong and weak acids, and what we're going to look at now is why would an acid only partially dissociate, or why would it fully dissociate? What is it? What factors influence whether or not it would be a strong acid or a weak acid? So in the next video, what I'm going to do is look at the principles that determine whether something is a strong and a weak acid, so that you don't have to go and study what are strong acids and weak acids. You can literally use your periodic table to figure out which is which. Okay, I'll see you in that video.